gonna hurt. It's not gonna be easy. You're gonna get knocked down, eliminated, humiliated. MJ went through that. LeBron went through that. All those things is part of being great.
You cannot keep me down. Flex on him, Giannis.
We are built for this. The job is not done.
You cannot keep me down.
Ahead of the Bucks and Hawks Game 1 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals, let's examine some storylines, shall we? Trae Young enters the series 12 straight 20-point games. That streak trails only Bob Pettit and Dominique Wilkins, longest in Hawks playoff history. Get it. The Bucks have been plenty comfortable at home this season, judging by their 5-0 mark. That said, they are just 3-4 in Game 1s under coach Mike Budenholzer. And Milwaukee has had success against Atlanta over the last 3 seasons. The Bucks are 8-2 against the Hawks in that span, though Atlanta has won the last matchup despite missing Trae Young. You know what it is. Atlanta at Milwaukee, Game 1 tonight. Trae Young and Giannis. Max, does ATL have to steal one of the first 2 to win this series?
No, they don't. I don't know where we got hung up on this. I know, look, the team that goes up 2-0 is likely to win the series, right? That's why you want home court. But what do we always say? You got a series once the road team wins a game, once the home team loses a game. Why does it have to occur in the first 2 games? Have we seen the Milwaukee Bucks of recent vintage, last several years, the Giannis Milwaukee Bucks blow a 2-0 lead? Yeah, they've done that in the not-too-distant past. Does Trae Young seem to be the type of cat that's going to get demoralized by being down 0-2? And he has Collins, he has a little crew with him. They can play, they can score. And look, Giannis is still the same guy who you can wall off against, you can wall him off, you can wall up against him and force him to do things that he's less comfortable doing in the playoffs, which is why he needs his role players to step up and his second and third bananas to step up. So that falls on Middleton and Drew Holiday. And the reason those guys aren't perennial all-stars, they're once in a blue moon all-stars, once in a while all-stars, is they don't do it consistently, Stephen A. So must the Hawks win one of the first 2 games to win the series? No. They just eventually need to win a single game on the road.
Wake up. Just think of me as your alarm.
I finish. I mean, listen. I fell asleep during that damn soliloquy because here's the deal. We're not looking at history or tradition or what the records show about teams being up 2-0 as a reason for saying the Hawks can't afford to be down 2-0. We're looking at the match. We're looking at the matchup. And the reality is that when you see the personality transplant on the defensive side of the ball that this Milwaukee Bucks team has had since P.J. Tucker has arrived. Since P.J. Tucker has arrived. When you think about Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and the fact that the combination of the 3 no longer have a Kevin Durant to be concerned about. Certainly Trae Young is a star and Trae Young can ball, and we all know that. But he's no Kevin Durant. He's not 6'11", with a 7'6" wingspan that can pull up from the parking lot. He's a miniature guard who's cat quick, who can cause you some problems if you're not careful. We get that. But the personnel that the Milwaukee Bucks have in place, certainly I look at Atlanta, they can shoot the basketball. We can't ignore that. We can't ignore the fact that they can't shoot the basketball. I'm sorry, I dropped my mic here, slipped off my tie, guys.
Yeah, why don't you just take a second, put it on, because it's rubbing against something there, Stephen A.
I got you. Got me now? You got me now?
Gotcha. Yep.
Got me now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks. You can't ignore the fact that Bogdanovich and Collins and these guys can shoot and play. But if you look at Milwaukee, Max, I got to be honest with you. I'll be shocked if this series goes past 5 games. It just shouldn't go past 5 games. Unless you hack a Giannis and you send him to the free throw line and he does a poor imitation of Ben Simmons at the free throw line. Unless you do that, there is no excuse for this Milwaukee Bucks team, considering its size, its perimeter shooting ability, its defensive prowess, its experience, the fact that even if Giannis is bad, he can still give you 25 and 10, along with their depth. There is no reason why the Milwaukee Bucks shouldn't go up 2-0, go to Atlanta, steal one of those 2, and come back to Milwaukee and close it in 5 games. I'd be
think
shocked
so.
if that didn't happen.
By the way, I like the Bucks in this series in 5 or 6 games, something like that. About that, we agree. What I'm saying is, I don't think their success, the potential success for Atlanta, is predicated on them stealing a game on the road. In other words, they can lose 2 on the road. I think they're going to lose a series anyway, but that not because of that. They can defend home court. They're fully capable of beating the Bucks 2 at Atlanta, and then eventually, like I said, just about the other series, you just have to win a single game on the road. It doesn't much matter where in the series that occurs if you defend home court.
But I think if you still won in Milwaukee, then chances are you'll get 1 in Atlanta, and you'll come back after 4 tied 2-2 with a best of 3, which I think would put them in a really formidable position. I think if you fall down 0-2, then that's not the case. I don't see them winning 2 straight in Atlanta to tie the series. That's one thing to point out. And Max, what I want you to think about is this. Even though we saw Milwaukee collapse, we saw them a couple of years ago in the conference finals succumb to Kawhi Leonard. You know, because Kawhi Leonard, you know, when Nick Nurse walked into the locker room, as my man Phil Handy, he was on All the Smoke a little while ago with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, and he was highlighting what a dog Kawhi Leonard is, obviously complimentary, of course, that's what I mean by that. And what he was talking about was how Nick Nurse walked into the locker room after they were down 0-2 and said, we got a few adjustments to make. And Kawhi Leonard said, the adjustment is I'm guarding Giannis. Period, and walked out the damn locker room. And that was that. And the series turned from there. But you also had Kawhi going berserk, a bigger guy, 6'8", couldn't be pushed around, could do his thing. Last year in the playoffs, when they lost to Miami, who was the guy making noise? Yeah, we saw Tyler Hero and other guys, but Jimmy Butler was up in them as well, and Bam Adebayo. What I'm saying is with Atlanta, the key is going to be Trae Young. And when you consider how miniature he is, it reminds me of a couple of years ago when they went against Boston, when Kyrie was there. And Kyrie was in Boston, and as electrifying as he could be, even though you still had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and those boys, the reality is a miniature dude going up against Milwaukee doesn't bode well for them. And that's how I view Atlanta.
The way I look at this, look, I like the Bucks to win, and partly it is because Trae Young is small, because Drew Holiday is as good as you can do guarding a small guard. Like, if you need a guard matchup and you have a dynamic point guard on the other team, but he's small, you want Drew Holiday on your team. That's what Milwaukee has, and that matchup, I think, is pivotal. He ain't going to stop Trae Young, but he can limit him in certain ways. So I also like the Bucks to win. But the way I view this question, do they have to steal 1, is what's the personality of the best player on the team, on Atlanta? What's the character of their leader? Trae Young does not seem to me, we haven't seen him in this position before, but he does not seem to me to be the kind of guy who we're down 0-2 and he won't rise to the occasion. He seems to me, match up, whatever, he is going to give it his best effort and lead his team to at least a victory or 2 that they wouldn't otherwise have. In other words, it's not like we're down 0-2, series is over, because I don't think Trae Young is that kind of player, whatever his height.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with you about that. I'm just saying that I'm just looking at the matchup, and I'm looking at the weapons that Atlanta has at its disposal against this particular Milwaukee squad. And I think matchups, you know, as they say, max styles and matchups make fights. And I think for the Atlanta Hawks, this is the worst case scenario for them remaining in the playoffs. I think going against the Clippers, they got a better chance. I think going against the Phoenix Suns, they got a better chance. But I look at Milwaukee, and I just look at their size, their perimeter shooting, and the personality transplant that P.J. Tucker has infused in that defense, along with Drew Holiday. And I think that's a lot to overcome. I hope I'm wrong, because I'm on record. I'd rather be in Atlanta.
Atlanta's the 4th best team left in the playoffs.
So I'm rooting for them.
If we had to rank the best teams left in the playoffs, most people would put Atlanta 4th out of 4. You know, like they're not quite as good as the other teams if the other teams are at full strength. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, the 4 teams remaining,
Ain't
none
that
of
what
them
I
have.
just said?
Stephen A's focused on the cities.
Go ahead, Molly.
Listen, I got nothing bad to say about Milwaukee. I got a lot of calls. I hear it's a great city.
I tried to help you,
so
Molly.
I got to stay
It's
open
all right.
with it, right? I've
It's
never
all right.
been. All right,
It's
and
all
I had a great note
all
I
right.
needed to get in. See, you guys are messing me up here. Now we just got to move forward. What was the biggest reason for the Suns' win last night? We'll look at PG's missed free throws, Monty's perfect inbound play, and some aggressive